Welcome to this webinar. I'm Dave Ransom, a now retired registered functional safety engineer. Since the introduction of the Institute's registered functional safety engineer qualification in 2016, we've had many questions, including who was it for, what is it, do I qualify, and many more questions. The Functional Safety Special Interest Group Executive Committee have listened to many of these questions and created this session, mainly to put these questions to two of our registered functional safety engineers. So today we've got asking the questions will be Tudor Ballon, the current chair of the Functional Safety SIG, and responding to the questions are Harvey Dearden and Dave Green. So Tudor, over to you.
Right, thank you, Dave. Everyone, for your benefits, today's webinar presentation will cover an overview of the purpose of the RFSE qualification and reasons to pursue it. So without further ado, I'll move on to the first question for today, which is, what are the objectives of the RFSE qualification? Does it enable the successful applicant to deliver functional safety courses, and who is it aimed at? Over to you, gents.
Well, objectives, primarily to offer a professional level qualification in respect of functional safety, and I wish to emphasize the fact that this is a professional level qualification. The idea is that it will substantiate an engineer's competence in the domain of functional safety. I'm choosing my words carefully here. I'm not saying demonstrate. There are no guarantees of competence from any qualification, but the RFSE qualification is specifically designed to substantiate a claim of competence from a professional engineer in this particular domain. It's not specifically constituted to allow people to deliver functional safety courses, although it may well support that aim, but that's not its primary purpose. And it's really aimed at any professional engineer who is active in a professional capacity in the domain of functional safety.
Isn't it, Harvey, that the aim is for the rounded functional safety engineer? It's not for specialists in one small part of the safety life cycle. It's about looking at the wider use of the functional safety standards and the functional safety work as a whole. That doesn't mean you have to do every phase of the life cycle, but it's looking for more than just somebody that does software code, for example. It's looking at understanding management and other aspects of the life cycle as well as the software code.
Yes, certainly, I agree with all that. Yes.
Thank you very much. Shall I move on to the next one then, if there's nothing else to add on this for now?
Yeah, we may come back to that point again, but let's press on for the moment. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Right. Second question is, what equivalence does the RFSE qualification have against similar expert level certifications in the industry?
I think the aim for this qualification is to be of equivalence to the Institute of Chemical Engineers Process Safety Engineer qualification. So it's looking at more, obviously, at the functional safety. Obviously, all the answers we give today are equivalent for the Explosive Atmosphere Engineer course for explosive atmosphere engineers, and it's aiming to show the specialism in functional safety, which is, I say, equivalent to the process safety qualification for the Institute of Chemical Engineers.
Yeah, it may crop up later, but one of the key points is that the qualification is awarded through a process of peer review, and the process is in fact modelled on the very process that is used for the award of chartered engineer status. So you can't simply attend a short course and come away with a certificate, and there's much more to it than that. You need to demonstrate a degree of competence and commitment over an extended period in the domain of functional safety, a short course would not be for that purpose.
Thank you very much. If there's nothing else to ask of this, I'll move on to the next one. Is chartership with the Institute of Measurement and Control necessary? Is membership with the Institute of Measurement and Control necessary?
Yeah, yes, you do need to be a chartered engineer. The point of that is that that in itself demonstrates that the applicant has the understanding, knowledge, and underpinning knowledge and understanding required of a chartered engineer, and that therefore the engineer has demonstrated the wherewithal to deploy his expertise in the field of functional safety. So the chartered engineer requirement is the fundamental foundation on which we build the qualification of RFSE, or indeed REXE for the explosive atmospheres engineer. The two essentially run in parallel. So you don't have to be chartered through the Institute of Measurement and Control. However, it can be through any PEI. But if you are to enjoy the award, then you do need to be a member of the InstMC.
Yeah, that's important to note, Harvey, isn't it? That you would say an InstMC award, and therefore you need to be a member of the InstMC in order to gain the award.
Just so, but you can be chartered with any institute.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next question. What academic and experience-based entry requirements are there for the RFSE qualification?
Well, looking at the entry requirements, if you've got a functional safety qualification from any of the course providers, be it TV Rhineland, TV Sud, Exeter, it's a benefit. It's you don't have to be at an expert level. You can be at an engineer level or practitioner level, as some of the providers call it. That certainly supports the application. And then the entry requirements, the other experiences that we're looking for is across, as I mentioned earlier on, is across the safety life cycle, doing different activities, contributing to training courses or papers, and with continued professional development and keeping up with the standards. So it's across the life cycle that we're looking experience wise, and backed up with some technical training and knowledge gathering in the first instance. Anything you want to answer, Harvey?
Yeah, so there is no sort of benchmark requirement for academic qualification. Any training that the applicant might have may well help substantiate their application, but there's no formal requirement for any qualification or academic level degree or whatever. None of that is required. It's fundamentally the continued activity for an extended period at a professional level in the field of functional safety, and it has to be relatively broad engagement, so not just a niche experience and niche involvement. It has to be relatively broad involvement throughout different aspects of the functional safety discipline over an extended period, where the standard requirement is for an aggregate of 3 years or so. There's not a fixed requirement, but the expectation is something of the order of 3 years involvement at the professional level. Again, let me emphasize that.
It's worth noting that the degree qualification side has already been assessed by the chartership process. So this is a post-chartership qualification, and therefore your engineering degree side has already been assessed and been awarded, and the chartership's already been awarded before coming for this qualification. Yeah,
that's a key point, that the chartered engineer status is the foundation on which this thing sits. That's an absolutely key point. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to the 5th question. If I do not meet the entry requirements for obtaining RFSE status, is there support from the InstMC available in the form of mentorship or coaching?
Yeah, there's no formal provision for support or mentoring at the moment. It's an interesting possibility that we may seek to expand upon through the special interest group. But there's no formal provision. But certainly the executive committee of the SIG would be sympathetic to any approach from somebody who wanted to pursue that matter. So certainly I would urge possible candidates to approach us about that possibility, but there certainly isn't any formal scheme at the moment.
Dave, if you have anything else to add.
It is similar to the chartership at the moment. We have a mentoring arrangement through the membership team, but it's an informal arrangement where we can discuss with people where they are and what is lacking. Obviously, those people that act as a mentor then wouldn't assess the candidate's application, because that's we'd then need to keep independence of that person away from any application process.
Of course. Thank you very much. Moving on to question number 6. What is the assessment format, and will there be a face-to-face interview for this?
The answer is maybe. So
Yes.
you submit your papers, you submit your evidence. And then
that form, the submission is very much akin to that you would make for the chartered engineer in the first place, although it's got a narrower focus because you would just be addressing the functional safety aspects of your experience and engagement. So it's basically a CV that is focused on those aspects of your experience and career to date. There is, as with chartered engineer, there would be an interview, but it's not an absolute requirement. If the evidence is sufficiently strong, then the institute has the option of waiving the interview. But the normal expectation would be that there would be an interview over Teams or Zoom or in some such manner, or potentially face to face if logistics allowed that. But there's not a hard requirement for an interview. Dave, can you expand on that? Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, it was a maybe. If there's strong evidence, then there may not be an interview, but there is provision in there, and certainly interviews have occurred for applicants so far.
Okay, moving on to question number 7. What are the costs associated with obtaining and maintaining RFSE status?
So there is an application fee. We think is around about £100, but the current fee we don't know, because it's only just changing as year end goes over. And then there's a subscription each year added to your membership subscription, and for 2025 that's £52 per year. So it's just gone from 50 to 52. Yeah, and as none of us are applying at the moment, we don't quite know what the 2025 application fee is, but it's around the £100 mark.
Yes, it is. Yes, but to that,
Thank you very much. Moving on to question number 8. Is there an RFSE peerage network in place to enable free exchange of information between RFSEs?
Yes, there is. We use a private group on LinkedIn, and only those holding the RFSE qualification are allowed to join that particular group, and that allows that exchange, and that's very much welcomed, of course. Yeah.
Anything to add, Dave? Or
no, not on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to question number 9. How can the RFSE qualification be displayed? Is there a certificate issued to the successful applicant?
So in answer to the second part of that question, yes, there is a certificate passed to the candidate in the same way as you would get a chartered engineer certificate. The RFSE comes with a certificate. It's not a post-nominal RFSE, although you'll see many people displaying it as such. It's more likely in your footer. So in your footer on your emails, you can put that you're a registered functional safety engineer and your number there just to show at the end of your email footer, or as a separate qualification linked on your profile on LinkedIn, and your CV, of course. It's a separate thing, although, as I say, a lot of people do display them as a post-nominal.
Yeah, the certificate is quite a formal thing. It's got an embedded hologram, so it's not something that can be simply copied. So it's an official certificate issued by the Institute. In terms of the abbreviation, yes, it is sometimes appended to people's signatures. And I think that's appropriate if you are corresponding or working in the functional safety domain. But beyond that, it would be inappropriate to use it more generally. I mean, when you're sending Christmas cards, you don't put your full post-nominal, you don't put your degrees in your post-nominal, so it needs a little consideration about where it's appropriate to use it. And certainly if you are engaged with other people in the functional safety domain, then it may well be appropriate to use it as an indication of your standing. But beyond that, it would perhaps be questionable. So just a little thought needs to be applied.
And of course, there's the register of RFSEs that can be found on the InstMC website as well.
Yes, that's a good point, actually, Tudor. The register is there in the public domain so that interested parties can freely access that register to confirm that anybody claiming to hold the qualification, they can verify that from themselves through the public register. And if you are to be awarded the qualification, you have to agree to your name being placed on that register to allow that verification by interested parties.
And just noting that if you don't renew it each year or don't pass your information over for the CPD review, which happens every 3 years, then your name comes off that list.
Right, thank you very much. And moving on now to the last question for today. How does the RFSE qualification further one's career development, and why should I pursue this?
I would say the key point about it is that it is a professional level qualification. There is a proliferation of people offering short course training and certification in functional safety. It becomes questionable how many of those people holding those certificates can actually demonstrate competence. They can demonstrate that they've attended a short course and acquired the certificate that's available from that course, but that in itself doesn't demonstrate competence, and it doesn't demonstrate professional level engagement as the RFSE qualification does. So that is the key aspect of it, that it is a demonstration of professional standing in this domain. And in that respect, that's why you would want to pursue it, I think, in order to make that demonstration, in order to substantiate that claim of competence in this domain. Sorry, Dave.
Sorry, it's looking for more than just, as Harvey says, attending the course. It's looking for how you've applied the knowledge, how are you contributing and keeping up with developments in the area of functional safety. The standards don't change that much, but there are plenty of papers and and presentations being given on various topics that expand on the standard requirements and how are different people doing it, and understanding that and peer reviewing and reviewing papers and documents that allow you to develop as a functional safety engineer more in your knowledge and guidance of people, or for your own use within companies. So it's useful for that side, and the reason to pursue it is it shows that you're active more than just training and refresher training, which most of us have to do. We're not saying that this replaces that, but it's about expanding that knowledge and using it to the better of of the organisations and ultimately making things a safer place.
Yeah, it's not simply about knowing the standard. It's also, and this is a part again why the chartered engineer status underpins this, is that you're demonstrating that you have the wherewithal to approach new territories within functional safety, new aspects or novel aspects that aren't handled by the routine quoting of the standard, that you're able to do the appropriate research to come to a fuller understanding and identify a practicable way forward in whatever the circumstances are that you meet. It's not simply being able to recite the standards. There's so much more to it than that.
Would you say then, obviously this sort of comes at a much higher required level of understanding of the field than obviously just sitting the course, taking the assessment, passing the assessment, and so on. So would this be something that people with technical authority level would be looking at to pursue as well? Would that sort of?
I think that's a fair point. I think it would sit well alongside the TA technical authority role. If the responsibility within that role is for the functional safety domain, then the RFSE qualification would be a nice complement to that role in substantiating your competence to support and advise on matters of functional safety. Yes, I think that would be a good pairing. Yeah.
I don't think it's exclusively that though, Harvey, is it? Because anybody that's been on any functional safety course and is working in the area of functional safety can aspire to this qualification. TA role it perfectly aligns up with, but that doesn't mean it's exclusively for a TA person.
Yeah.
Someone that's active in functional safety in the day-to-day role can also equally go for the qualification. Unless you've just done your course and passed it yesterday, then obviously you may not have sufficient experience, but it's something you could aspire to, with time.
Yeah, you're quite right to make that point. The TA, there's a natural sort of fit there, but it could well be somebody that's active in manufacture rather than end user. They're a supplier of equipment, or they're an integrator of systems, or they could be in sales. So certainly not exclusive to the TA sort of role, or there's a natural pairing there. But there are many such roles that people would find this a useful substantiation of their competence, so that they hopefully by that means they can convey a degree of confidence to the other parties that they are then working with. Yeah. That's the essence of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Nearly everything we've discussed here also applies to the sister qualification of the Explosive Atmosphere RFSE qualification. It more or less sits in parallel with the functional safety one. I think it might be worth just a little bit of mention of that, Harvey.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dave. It is a sister qualification. The process is exactly the same, and its basis and standing is exactly the same as RFSE. It's just that the focus is then on the explosive atmospheres domain. So everything that we've said throughout this presentation would equally apply to the RFSE qualification. And people that are active in that sort of role, then yes, again, it allows you to demonstrate a degree of competence and your professional level engagement within that domain. I mean, a lot of people will be familiar with the complex qualifications, of course. Again, short-term course attendance with an exam at the end will allow you to acquire that certification. Which I suppose you could argue are very much aligned with the short-term courses for functional safety. They're pitched in that same sort of territory. But RFSE, very much like RFSE, is pitched again at the professional level. Again, you're going to have to demonstrate extended experience through a period of time, nominally an aggregate of 3 years at least, involvement and engagement at a professional level, with a commitment, ongoing commitment to the code of conduct of the institute for the professional engineer, and also for a commitment to ongoing CPD in support of that. So all of that true of both qualifications, yes.
And the REXE is also post-chartership as well, H, just as a reminder.
Yeah, quite right, yeah.
Okay, well, thanks very much for that. I think it's been a very useful discussion. For anybody who is interested in applying, it's not an exhaustive form. The form's a fairly easy form to fill in. So if you're thinking you qualify, that you could qualify, then please contact us.
Yeah, I guess we should point people at the website, because you will find details on the Institute's website about the qualifications and the requirements, and indeed you can apply through the website. You'll get the form through the website.
And the website address is www.instmc.org, and take a look there for the Functional Safety SIG.
Right. Thank you all. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Harvey.